Hey guys, UWS here. Here to comment finally on this Andrew Neil versus Ben Shapiro interview. And this was a complete shellacking of Shapiro. And of course, you know this because all these people who on the left would not say Shapiro's name for the life of them are now pretty much ganging up on him and talking about this interview. So we're going to talk about this from a couple different perspectives because there's just one insanely horrible, just idiotic take that has to be addressed, and it's part of my motivation for this video. So thanks, Thunderfoot. I always like having an excuse to, you know, tear your asshole inside out, but that's okay. Um, but anyhow, let's deal with the actual interview. For Ben Shapiro's attitude was just horribly rotten. Like Andrew Neil, I mean, whether he's even left wing or right wing in American politics, whatever his positions are, um, the fact is, number one, he was being very highly critical of Shapiro, which journalists should be very highly critical. And let's face it, he's a Brit. He's going to be anyhow. He's a British conservative, though, but he's not. That British conservatives have different viewpoints, so it doesn't mean like it's not going to be any left wing, but that's beside the point. Um, Ben Shapiro went on to repeatedly try to ask him questions, um, and basically would not answer for the criticisms of himself. Like, for example, Andrew Neil pointed out multiple times when Ben Shapiro used highly charged language where Shapiro was moving the goalposts. Like, for example, Shapiro repeatedly, if you listen to any of his shows, he talks about, um, like, political discourse going negative. Um, and how we need to have civil discourse and not raise the political temperature. Fair point. But Andrew Neil is pointing out times where Ben Shapiro was using rather extreme language, like, for example, Jews who voted for Obama are Jews in name only. First of all, that's just an idiotic thing to say. And it's even more idiotic to defend, especially now. You could say you were being hyperbolic or, rhetorical, whatever, but for him to defend that statement, like, I'm no fan of Obama. Obama was a disaster of a president. But I'm not going to characterize people who voted for Obama because people have their own reasons to vote, and sometimes they vote on single issues, sometimes they'll vote on a certain group of issues surrounding a particular thing. Some people vote with parties, some people vote um, like with an aggregate, and some people have deal breakers. People have different mindsets when they go to the polls and vote. For example, I voted against John McCain in 2016, even though I agree with probably a majority of his policies. And the reason I voted against John McCain, God bless his family, God bless everybody who had to deal with his death and all that. I'm not stomping on anybody's grave, but when he was a senator, he was a piece of shit. And, you know, you can't get away from that fact. You can be like sad for somebody's family, but still admit what they were. But anyhow, I voted against him out of anger and protest in 2016 for his years of screwing over veterans. And yes, he did screw them over, for the most part. Um, you know, I did not. It was not an issue vote. It was a person vote. It was a person who was so repulsive, and so sometimes that's what it is. You're just voting against somebody. So just because a Jew votes for Obama does not mean they're a Jew in name only. And you see this with Ben Shapiro a lot. You see him using his Semite his Semite ancestry kind of as a crutch. Like racism is often used as a crutch. to get whatever you want, to say whatever you want, to try and silence dissent of various opinions. Um, and Andrew Neil here was pointing out comments about Trump, which um, is just, he was factually right about what Shapiro said. Like, Shapiro uses this extremist language. And he defends that ancestry a lot. And yeah, there is a problem with anti-Semitism on both sides of the aisle. It's left wing and it's right wing. But the reality is that Ben Shapiro was crushed, and when he was crushed, he decided to leave the interview. That is an awful, awful, awful sign of character. And I've never seen that from Shapiro, but it took somebody like Andrew Neil. I don't know much about Andrew Neil, so it's like I don't have a dog in his fight. BBC is, yeah, they're pretty leftist. They're actually very leftist in certain things like climate change. Um, so yeah, Ben Shapiro gets owned with facts and logic. That's just how it is, and there's no defense for it. That's why nobody's trying to defend it. And he got owned in multiple ways too, like not just factually, but he got just character completely crushed. All the way up to the end where Shapiro was pretty much trying to fire shots, like starting to get juvenile toward the end of the interview, talking about popularity. And like Neil, he hit a home run with this. And I might have to listen to this dude, because this dude, he hit hard, and that's what you want, and that's important. And I'm glad that we have somebody who is a skeptic like that, even when interviewing somebody on the right. I wish there was more of that in American media. And he even points that out too. It's just a fact. Like, our media is garbage. BBC's not much better, but if they have people like this, well, let me just say this too. I've heard just complete garbage people on BBC interviewing. This guy's the only one that I think, I want to hear more from him. But anyhow, enough ranting about that. What I'm really interested in is our little buddy Thunderfoot here, because, he puts his foot in his mouth more than once here. First of all, out of this nuanced take that I just gave, what does Thunderfoot characterize this as? Pretty much just like mockery, like I'm better than you, and he focuses on let's see if we can pull this up, because he has these up for quite a while. No, we're not going to listen to your voice here. We're going to listen to your little characterization. So, okay, yeah, here's rage quit, and then oh no's, the irony meter, and all that. And it's like, keep in mind, this guy is paid public money to produce research. So it's like this level of maturity. Like, look at some of these memes he's posting. It's not right here, not right here. Okay, yeah, right here, yeah. So, okay, this is where he was commenting on Abraham killing his son because God told him to. And talking about being barbaric. First of all, if you want to call something barbaric, you want to know the most barbaric thing? Atheism. Because keep in mind, like, religion did not come along until roughly just before civilization, especially any kind of organized religion. Like, you have claims that there was a religion of animism, worshipping animals, but there's no real evidence of actual animal worship. But I mean, you can't discount that. But the fact is that animals way more ancient than humanity are not religious, and there's a reason for that. But I think the more important thing is just the moral implication here. Now notice the portrayal, trying to stir up feelings of morality. So this is what I'd have to ask to you, Mr. Thunderfoot, Mr. Busted solar roadways and busted asteroid hotels. These things that you spend your free time doing, since you're obviously interested in science, as shown from pictures like this and your little attempts to gain viewership. And you got a lot of viewers, you got a good following, I'll give you that. But answer me this: where do your ideas of evil come from? If you ever see this video, that's the first thing I want answered, because it's easy for an atheist to use religious morality to debunk religion. That's easy. But the main question you have to answer is, okay, if you're using the idea of evil to debunk God, then from where do you get evil? It is an unanswerable question, but let's just see if Mr. Solar Roadways here can answer that. Anyhow, thanks for listening, guys. God bless, and I look forward to any responses from this that I get.